Well, he is the Aurora Borealis to me. It is Tim Sika joining us with movie reviews. We're at the movies with Tim Sika. Hi.
Hi, Kim. I have never been called an aurora borealis
Oh, you're a
before in my
bright light.
life.
You're totally a bright light.
Oh, well, I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, how's your week? Have you seen anything good? Any good movies?
I have not seen anything good. I
Yeah.
haven't had time. I watched Survivor this week. That was it. That's all I had
Oh,
time for.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel like I'm going to be a crank this week. I
Uh-oh.
mean, there's some good movies to talk about, but there's
Okay.
also a lot of bad movies to talk
Oh.
about. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
What are
Anyway.
we going with first? Are we doing
Well,
the Planet of the Apes?
let's do the big Hollywood release of the week, which is
Okay.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The
Was this the movie they were riding horseback on a San Francisco beach in ape costumes and everyone thought it was a big like, "Oh, there's apes." No.
It's possible. There've been so
Okay.
many of these. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
10th Apes movies in the Planet of the Apes movie franchise, which
Yeah.
began with the Planet of the Apes, the 1968 one, which starred Charlton Heston, which is still a fantastic movie. But this is the fourth installment, I get this right, of the reboot franchise, which began in 2011 with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And this one's a direct sequel to 2017's War for the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, anyway, there's going to be a quiz at the end. So anyway, get all that housekeeping out of the way. And this latest Apes entry, Kingdom, it takes place 300 years after War of the Planet of the Apes. And there's this authoritarian ape ruler in charge of the ape kingdom. His name is Proximus Caesar. He kind of looks like King Kong. Anyway, and he and his minions are armed with these weapons that were forged from lost human technologies in order to enslave other ape clans. Humans have regressed to a primitive state in this movie too. I mean, they do in most of these movies. And
Yeah.
this movie is basically about determining what the future of this ape civilization for apes and humans moving forward is going to look like. That's really enough to say about the plot. And this is a very epic movie. It's really spectacular. It's ambitious. There's a quality about the quieter moments that kind of remind me of the way movie stories used to be told before the technology used for movies today kind of took them over and have
Right.
basically been given dominance over the story. I like that about the movie until it kind of reverted to the accepted standard action movie template of today, which is like, what they did
Mm.
in The Fall Guy, where you have one spectacular action sequence, then you get to breathe for a while, then subsequent ones just keep topping each preceding action sequence until, by the end of the movie, your body's kind of throbbing from all the, the Dolby assault and everything. So, but anyway, the craft of this movie is impeccable, and the movie is totally okay for what it is. But honestly, I think if it had never been made, nobody would notice its absence because the
Oh.
story's pretty thin. And all of the film's world building here, even more than the previous entries, it kind of surrounds itself with this aura or ambience of self importance and I don't know, magnificence that the actual story, in my opinion, failed to live up to or to justify. So, anyway, beautifully mounted production,
Hmm.
glorious, grand, grandiose. But other than the production design, the amazing motion capture performances, and an ambitiously orchestrated and performed music score, it doesn't really amount to much.
Mm.
I've already forgotten it. It's terrible, but it's like, okay. So,
Yeah.
but
Was there a
you
lot of
know,
San Francisco and Bay Area in this movie?
none that I recall.
Oh, okay. It must have just been a promotion. Wes says, yeah, the San Francisco Apes was a promotion for this movie. So I guess
I don't.
they they
Gee, I
they
like to know how did they? Yeah, how did they connect San Francisco? Oh, they probably didn't. They just
they were
probably want.
wearing ape costumes. They were riding horseback at Chrissy Field. It was all marketing for the movie.
Are they implying that the residents of San Francisco are apes?
I don't know.
I'm wondering. Well, we've descended from them according to
Yeah.
Darwin. Anyway,
Uh,
it's fine. This movie's fine. It's just
are you
seen one, yes, seen them all.
are you recommending this movie?
Uh, Personally, no. But if you, if I mean, fans of this franchise aren't going to care what I say. They
Yeah.
don't care what most critics say. They're going to go anyway. And if you do go and you are a fan, I think you'll be rewarded.
Yeah.
I think you'll like what you see. It's just I just wish the story had a little more oomph. I think they've already told all the stories that need to be told about the Planet of the Apes. That's
Hmm.
10 movies. Come on. 10
How
movies.
many more do we
10
need?
movies. What else? I mean, yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Well, I
I'm
don't think you're gonna love this one either. This is
ah,
Unfrosted.
why do you say that?
No matter who I've heard talk about this movie, they have hated it.
Oh God! Well, let me join the group.
Uh,
at, at age 70, right? Jerry Seinfeld of the iconic TV comedy series Seinfeld
hmm.
is directing his first movie, but with any luck, it'll be his last.
Oh no.
I got so frustrated watching this abomination. I didn't even take notes because there really was nothing to note and less to say when it was all over. I was speechless. This is a comedy about the invention of the Pop Tart, and the which is kind of like a funny idea when you think about it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's about the rivalry between breakfast cereal corporations, Kellogg's, headquartered in Battle Creek, Michigan, and Post, the cereals that make breakfast just a little bit better. I think that's what Post used to say about their cereals. Anyway, and I suspect that most of what's portrayed here is basically made up because the characters in this movie are all whack jobs. And what Unfrosted basically is a corporate propaganda piece for Kellogg's. And if I were Kellogg's, I might at least consider for a little while litigation.
Oh.
I'll tell you, this is it's a mess. It's got lots of celebrity cameos in it. It's kind of colorful, but I can't even remember, Kim, the last time I watched a movie where I kept saying out loud, finally after having kept saying it to myself over and over, what the hell is this? What the hell am I watching? Who the hell made this? And what in hell did they think they were doing? That's what I thought of
Oh
Unfrosted.
no. How
It's
bad
a,
does it have to be?
yeah, it's a bad version of like a Disney Channel comedy where, except for maybe one or two like fleeting bits, it was cluelessly put together, non-acted by Jerry Seinfeld, even more non-directed by Jerry Seinfeld, and
Mm.
just unfunny, which is the death knell for a comedy. When you're watching a comedy and you're not laughing, you I go out of my mind. It's more boring than a bad opera.
Yeah.
you know it's just if you're not laughing, you go because they're telling you, hey, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna really find this funny. And if you don't find it funny, you just sit there stone faced and you just keep looking at your watch hoping that the damn thing's gonna end.
Well, it's
This
kind of
was
it's kind of
awful.
embarrassing, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of you're setting a bar when you call something a comedy, right? You
Yes,
you expect
yes.
some laughs, you expect things to be funny, and if it falls flat, there's kind of this. Even at home when you're sitting on your couch, it's still an awkward silence. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, well, at least if you're home. Well, this is on Netflix, so you could turn it off after 10 minutes. I mean, you
Oh,
may want to turn it off after 2 minutes.
did you make it through the whole thing?
I did. Oh yeah, I did. Oh God,
Oh,
and I made it through the next one, which is even worse.
oh God, what happened?
Not another church movie. Speaking of unfunny, but in a painfully different way, we've got this one, not another church movie, which, knowing it really must have sucked. They employed the services in its cast of characters of an Academy Award nominee and an Academy Award winner. Mickey Rourke as Satan and Jamie Foxx as God. Okay? That's, hey,
It
I,
could be
I, I,
good.
it could be good, but I mean, Jesus H. Christ. This is
Yeah.
one of the worst comedies I've ever had to endure. To its credit, it was just over 90 minutes, but it was excruciating. I mean, what the hell is a church movie, for one? All right, your guess is as good as mine. Anyway, let me tell you the plot of this laughless mess. It has God. It has God selecting Taylor Harry. Get it? Taylor Harry? Tyler
Oh,
Perry?
okay, yeah.
And Taylor Perry is spelled Pharry. So people kept saying Taylor Ferry.
Oh,
Isn't that hilarious? Oh God,
no.
that's a laugh out loud ride. Anyway, he picks Taylor Ferry or Perry to find this candidate to replace beloved African American talk show host Oprah Winfrey. Get that too, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Win.
I got it. Yeah, not funny.
Who is stepping down from her television empire, and she's looking for a successor
Mm-hmm.
capable of empowering women. Right? Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
good. That's good too. Okay, men in
Mm-hmm.
drag play women in this movie. Ha ha. Black people make fun of white people. That
Right.
phone on the other side of the office is ringing, so just ignore that.
They're calling to say, Tim Sika,
Yeah,
did you
they're
like
calling.
anything this week?
Yeah, no, they're calling to say don't go out of your house because watch your back.
Oh no,
But
no.
black people mostly make fun of themselves
Mm-hmm.
in this movie. There must have been one moment in this poor excuse for a comedy, poor excuse for a movie, even. But that was I would say there was a funny moment when after about 40 minutes of this travesty, I'm going to myself, this is so bad. I wonder what the actors who signed on to this actually thought they were doing, or what might have been going through their minds when they were like filming this, when they were like saying these like
Mm.
idiotic lines. They had to think that this was just awful. So I'm laughing, or I laughed for a moment because it's so bad. It's so bad. You're laughing because like they're doing this like with gusto and like commitment, and it's just not worth the effort. Anyway, it was pure comic torture for me. Bilge is the word that most comes to mind. Pure comic dreck is another thing. I mean,
Ugh.
because the script seemed to be making itself up as it went along. The comic scenes appeared not to be directed at all. You know, Kim, I imagined at one point when a scene was about to be filmed, like imagine being on set, right? And the director's there. The director in question goes, action. Then he just leaves the room for 10 minutes, lets the actors do what they want to do, returns to the set, he yells cut, and then he hands over the footage to somebody who has no idea of what film editing is.
Bad. What was
Anything
worse?
else I say is just going to be redundant. It was appalling. It was so bad. You
What
wanted to
was
run out of the theater screaming, and yes, I sat through the whole thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was worse, this one or Unfrosted?
This, but
Okay.
they're pretty close. At least Unfrosted had. I mean, at least it had celebrity cameos. They were like,
Right.
yeah. So that was something. I mean, it really, it's their neck and neck. But this
Oh,
one,
done.
what on earth were they smoking?
We'll just say don't waste your time.
Yeah, I think I've said that many different ways already. uh,
Aisha.
yeah, that's what I said, Aisha, but
Mm-hmm.
I was corrected on another outlet. They said it's Aisha. So
Aisha.
anyway,
Okay.
yeah. So Aisha. So now we can get serious. Aisha is a drama about a Nigerian refugee. This is a serious drama, played by Letitia Wright, and her ongoing efforts to kind of negotiate her way through all of the government bureaucracy that's required for her to be granted asylum in Ireland. So it's an immigrant drama.
Okay.
And what this woman goes through and the horror of what we learned about what she went through to get to Ireland for safe haven, it's set against this. It's a dark story, but it's set against this close friendship she develops with a security guard played by Josh O'Connor, who's in everything these days. I think we've reviewed like 4 movies in the last 3 weeks that had Josh O'Connor in them. Anyway, this character that he plays works at the facility where she's temporarily living. So it's a tender romance story as well.
Oh.
And it was inspired by real life experiences. The movie opens with this disclaimer claiming that it was heavily researched with current and former international protection applicants. So there's a ring of truth about the film, and it's this vivid picture we see of what some people fleeing war or personal injury seeking protection actually go through. And like I said, all of this it's dark, but it's really nicely tempered by a tender, I guess you could say it's an almost romance,
Mm-hmm.
which humanizes the characters in the proceedings amidst what is essentially this epic type dark backdrop of personal tragedy. So I found it a wonderful movie. It's a humble movie. It's understated. It's moving. And it's a tender story about a Nigerian woman looking for permanent asylum in Ireland. And the kind of movie I feel is so well worth my time to watch and review and talk about, in contrast to so much of the
Mm-hmm.
junk I have to sit through. This one reminded me of why I like movies and why I review movies and
It's
why I
oh
like to
wow.
talk about movies. So
And is
yeah,
it in theaters
Aisha,
or is it
it's
on
it's in
online?
theaters. It's in
Okay.
theaters right now, and like every other movie that's in theaters right now, will probably be available online in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
Although don't quote me on that because I don't know for sure.
Yeah. What about this one? Force of Nature. The
Yeah,
Dry.
yeah, The Dry too. This is an Australian mystery thriller, Kim. It's a sort of whodunit, but more than a whodunit, and it's a sequel to The Dry, which was a 2020 movie the writer director returns in this sequel, Robert Connolly, and the movie star Eric Bana, who's in the poster there, returns as well. He plays a federal police detective who's trying to get to the bottom of a corporate money laundering scheme from a company whistleblower. That's basically the plot. And to my own tastes, this is another one of those movies with deliberate pacing, complicated characters who have complicated motivations and problems, based on a book, Force of Nature by Jane Harper.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you guessing. It gives you a rooting interest in the goings on. In other words, it feels great to watch.
Mm-hmm.
There, there's some subtle thematic goings on underneath the surface in this movie, which makes for a more rewarding watch had it been just a mystery thriller. And the story takes place in the Australian bush, the Girland Ranges, a place I never even heard of. I guess it's just a small area
Yeah.
in Australia. But so the backdrop, the area and the location and the elements become characters themselves in this story too. And I think what I like most about this movie, Kim, is that it's an independent sequel to an independent film, which we
Okay.
hardly ever see
Mm-hmm.
due to the fact that movie sequels generally seem to be exclusively associated and synonymous with superhero movies
Yeah.
and big action franchises. But evidently, The Dry was a big commercial success. So they did this sequel, and that's rare and it's
Mm-hmm.
refreshing to me when slow burning smart movies connect with audiences like The Dry obviously did, and like this one hopefully will. And it kind of it's a these movies are a kind of a definite counterpoint to Martin Scorsese's comments about how cinema is dying. They are making some really good movies. It's just they don't have the budgets to get out there in the same big ways that these big Hollywood movies can spend 150. Francis Ford Coppola's movie, Megapolis.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard
Mm-hmm.
about this?
I have. I
Well,
haven't seen it though.
well,
Is it out yet?
no, it's not out
Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
because
It's
they're looking
coming
for a
out.
distributor. It's
Yeah.
gonna premiere at Cannes, but he spent 150 million of his own
Whoa.
money. But in order for it even to be distributed, the distributors are going to have to pony up 100 million to
Wow.
200 million just to promote the film. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's what it costs. So there are really good movies like this one being made that just aren't getting the push that I think they deserve. But so anyway, this Force of Nature is a slow burning procedural mystery thriller that's smart and absorbing and just interesting. Interesting.
Okay, so you're going to recommend that one.
Yes,
What
I
a,
am.
what about the feeling that the time for doing something has passed? That is a long title.
It is. Now, here's a funny comedy. This is a comedy. It's
Mhm.
a wry, wacky, kind of a snarky and very droll comedy
Okay.
where people talk and interact in weird, offbeat ways with long pauses between their verbal utterances and awkward body language.
Mhm.
And it's the story of this rather hapless 33-year-old woman who kind of just seems to be coasting through her life. She's working at this low level corporate job. She has to relate to her quarrelsome Jewish parents who are always finding fault with her, and being in this 9-year passionless BDSM relationship with some guy who barely ever sees to it that she orgasms. She
Oh.
she identifies as a sexual submissive, And so throughout the movie, she's engaging in various sexual kink scenes. So, yeah,
But without passion.
without passion, yes. But so this is a weird but very funny movie. It's
uh,
particularly funny, Kim, if every now and then while you're watching it play out and unfold, you think of the title, the feeling that the time for doing something has passed. It makes what you're watching even funnier because of the implication of the title.
mm-hmm.
And it's been written, edited, and directed and stars a lady filmmaker, Joanna Arnow, I think her name is, who, in my opinion, deserves a kind of medal for all she does here, not only in the writing, editing, and directing departments, but particularly playing the lead role, as she's a lot of the time naked in the movie and a lot of the time engaging in very kinky and unapologetically kinky sex scenes.
Wow.
There's a goodly amount of BDSM sex in this movie, which I won't describe
Mm.
in detail here. And there's a lot of eating too. There's either a sex scene or a scene where the characters are stuffing their faces. So it swings toward a very decided cringiness in tone. And
mm-hmm.
this is not a movie for everybody, but I found it bold and brave and the funniest. I don't know if it's, you could call it the funniest comedy of the week. It's one of the funniest comedies I've seen this year. Forget Unfrosted, forget Not Another Church Movie. But if cringe gets under your skin, you may want to pause and watch The Notebook or something similar. Or you may think, God, Tim Sika, I like this movie. He may be some kind of pervert. But it's droll and funny. And if you could just kind of like look at it from that standpoint, it
mm-hmm.
also has something to say and leaves you with something to think about too. It
Yeah.
really does, about just sex and intimacy and
Mm-hmm.
these scenes, which I mean, there's a whole subculture, apparently, I'm told, of this whole BDSM thing that people do every day. I mean, and it's a sweet movie too. It's a sweet movie, but it did make me feel a little uncomfortable at times, I have to admit.
That's
But
such a weird thing to put together, BDSM and sweet.
yeah, I know, but it's both those things. Yeah.
uh,
I mean, there's some scenes in here where I'm going, "Oh God, this is the last movie you want to see." Well, it's not for kids, but
no.
this is not a movie you like want to watch with your parents.
Uh,
Never.
no.
Ever. I don't know, maybe your husband, if it was something that you're
Not a
into.
good Mother's
But
Day weekend film. No.
no.
Mm,
But you cannot be into this scene, but still find it. It's kind of, I found it really, really interesting, just as
right,
a
right.
cultural thing, phenomenon. But I liked it, and I also laughed. I laughed all the way through it. So
Okay. Evil does not exist.
yes, this is a hard movie to talk about because
Oh.
describing the experience of watching it, it's going to vary from person to person. I guess you could say that about any movie, but this one particularly depends upon your willingness to go with it because it was written and directed by Ryosuke Hamaguchi, who's this brilliant Japanese filmmaker, but a filmmaker whose films require a great deal of patience from the viewer, and total surrender
Mm,
would even be better. It's the
mm-hmm.
contemporary story of a man and his young daughter who live in this small Japanese village where they and the other residents are confronted with this proposed real estate project and the consequences its development is going to have to their pristine ecosystem. You were talking about stories about, the glaciers going and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk an hour about why we think that's happening, but the developers in this case, they want to build a glamping site. Do you know what glamping is?
Yeah.
I
That's
didn't until this movie.
so it's a
Yeah.
kind of a slurming together of glamorous and camping. So
Right.
you're not
Yeah.
really camping. You're kind of camping,
No.
upscale camping.
Yeah, and it's like thinking you're going camping, but you don't have bugs to deal with and all that
Right.
stuff. It's just like a lot of fun. Anyway, yeah. So that's their proposed thing, and yeah, this is a beautiful film.
Okay.
Like the feeling that the time for doing something has passed is not for everyone, but for those willing to submit to it, it could conceivably. This sounds it sounds like an overstatement, but I think it can result in a kind of a deeply spiritual experience because
Oh.
Hamaguchi, unlike any other filmmaker, maybe with the exception of Stanley Kubrick, uh, the films of Hamaguchi, they do this really interesting thing where they force you to be in the present moment. And when you're there and you're deeply immersed in the present moment and you stick with his movies, by the time they end, all kinds of deep meaning you start extracting from the experience of having watched the movie. I don't know how to explain it any other way. I love his movies. I love this movie. The ending, it's like the ending of 2001. It's a bit of a head scratcher, and it's easy for the mind to wander in Hamaguchi's films, and in particular this film. He won an Oscar, by the way, for Best International Feature a couple of years ago for a movie called Drive My Car, also a must see. But this one too, like that one, is an uncompromising. It's confidently directed. It's very mysterious, and it lingers long after you see it, about the rape of the environment and the effects it has on a small Japanese village. It's my favorite movie of the week. It totally appeals to my personal taste, and it's a movie I saw a week ago, and when I get
Still
my
thinking about
thoughts,
it.
when I get my thoughts together about the movies I'm going
Yeah.
to talk to you about, that's the one that ideally I could talk for the whole segment about, because there's so much in it and it's such a beautiful movie and I loved it. It's called Evil Does Not Exist, and it's playing exclusively in theaters, which is really the best way to see it because the photography in this movie is just stunning.
When
Yeah.
you say if you submit to it, do you
Yeah.
mean like suspend disbelief, or what do you mean by submitting
Yeah,
to a movie?
it's funny. I said submit, and that's and I likened it to the BDSM movie.
Right.
Yeah, submit. I mean, I said submit, didn't I?
Yeah.
I mean, like totally surrender to it, even when you think, I don't know if I want to keep watching this movie. Just acknowledge that thought. Say thank you for the thought, mind, but I'm going to stay with this movie and go with it. That's what I mean.
Okay.
You have to submit to it, even if you think, like, where's this movie going? It doesn't seem like why am I having to watch this man split logs for 10 minutes?
Oh,
And what does this have to do with anything? But everything is there for a purpose. And at the end, this is Hamaguchi. At the end, you go, oh my God, I'm so glad I stuck with having
yeah.
to watch it. Or there's this long scene, and I'm not giving anything away. There's this beautiful scene with him and his daughter where they're walking through the forest and walking through the woods, and they're identifying, and this sounds cliched and corny, but it isn't, where they're identifying plants and trees and flowers. That's just so, you could say, well, maybe it's going on for a long time, but no, it's everything is deliberate,
Yeah.
everything is specific, everything is deliberately put there for a reason, but the reason is not really made known until the very end, and even then it's the ending is open to interpretation. I love those movies. And they're few and far
Yeah.
between, and Evil Does Not Exist. Great movie, great movie, great
No,
movie.
I love a movie that makes you think even days after and still want to talk about it. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
I know that was a long rambling answer to your
No, no, no.
question why you
It's good.
submit, but that's
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah, that's what I meant.
All
Yeah.
right. To recap it, you are not recommending The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but you say fans are going to see it anyway. And for people who like this kind of thing, they'll probably like it too.
Yeah.
But you wish it had more of a story. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfrosted, it's a big no for you. You're not only not recommending this movie, you called it an abomination and you were speechless at how bad it is. And if you thought that was bad, this is even worse. Not Another Church Movie is so bad, you called it pure comic torture. You said it's bilge. I'll try to say the next one right. Aisha? Did you say Aisha?
Yeah, Aisha. Yeah.
Aisha, you said it's dark but tender with a little bit of romance. You called it a wonderful, humble movie.
Yeah.
The Force of Nature, The Dry 2, you said it's a thriller that keeps you guessing, and you're recommending it. You called it smart and absorbing. The feeling that the time for doing something has passed. You said it's funny but cringy. A lot of sex in this thing and eating, but for you, it was bold and brave, and you
Yeah.
actually liked it. You said it was really
Uh,
funny.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
funny. Yeah.
Evil does not exist. Your favorite movie of the week. You loved this movie. You said it's beautiful. And if you can submit to it, it will be worth it in the end. Evil does not exist.
Yes, and that's about the size of it, to quote John Wayne. I don't know what movie he said that in.
You watched
That's
a lot of
about the.
movies this
Yeah,
week.
I know I did. And there was a couple other I tried to get to, but there was no way. And then I thought, well,
Yeah.
we're not going to have time to talk about 10 movies. But
No.
yeah, all these movies open in theaters and or VOD today. So
Okay.
there's lots of movies about a lot of different subjects being made today, and it's
Hmm.
great. I mean, there's something for everybody. You just have to know where to look and where to find them.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your ideas and your opinions and your thoughts with us. Tim Sika at the movies. Have a great weekend.
You too, Kim. I'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Okay, bye.